Okay. Perfect. Fabulous. Maybe let's get rid of the banner. Fabulous. Perfect. My speakers are off, actually, I should say. Welcome, everyone. Different setup today. Yeah, yes. We are improving. We're getting better and better and better. And we're live on LinkedIn and on YouTube and on my Twitter account. And since I got my own notification right here on LinkedIn, I'll just join our own lunch break because why not? And with me today, we've got someone who has been active in the background for quite some time. The lovely Miss Ellie is joining me today to get all your questions in, so we can focus on on your questions, and also the topics that we have prepared. So let's give it a little bit more time, 1 or 2 minutes, for people to join in. If you are live, if you're following us, if you've joined us, just drop a comment below. Drop a hi, or a wavy hand, or okay, or just K. So I know that everybody can hear us, everybody can see us. Perfect. We've got 2 topics today, and I'm gonna let you know in a minute what we're talking about. Perfect. I would say let's start, because it's Friday after all. Welcome to Sales Nation and welcome to Lunch Break on this beautiful Friday. I'm your host, Joseph Ross, and with me today for the very first time, and hopefully for more times than that, the lovely Miss Ellie Garcia, who has been active in the background, and now we decided to give that beautiful face a look, beautiful look of face. I don't know. Anyway, so we are together today asking or answering a lot of questions, hopefully. And we have 2 topics that I'm really passionate about. I'm really excited to share that with you. It's really, really great. You might have noticed the topic on the live on LinkedIn. So we are talking about how can we beat our big competitors, or as I made a note last night, how can we beat behemoth competitors? I like big words. Words sell. I'm a big fan of words. Anyway, how can we do that? Especially if we're a startup. Maybe we have just built our sales organization. The sales team is young, hungry, excited, ready to go. So how can we go against these big guns that have been around for a long time? Spoiler alert, we can do it. We definitely can do it. And we're going to talk about that today in just a minute. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, if you're just joining in, just drop a comment below. Let me know if you can hear me clearly, if you can see me clearly. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. We are launching, and this is something very exciting. We are launching our Sales Nation community. Now, what's Sales Nation? I mean, you've seen Sales Nation probably. If you're following me on social media, you've seen Sales Nation. Maybe you're already subscribed to our Sales Nation podcast, which is part of our Honeycomb family. So, what is the Sales Nation community? We want to have a place for sales reps, for sales pros, for sales veterans, for people who are new in sales, a place where we can discuss certain things. And specifically, because that's what we are passionate about, something that we can how we can replace outdated sales tactics, and what are sales tactics and sales strategies that are modern and up to date, and how we can help our buyers buy from us instead of someone else, instead of our competitors. So that is what the Sales Nation community is all about. It's also a place where we can just talk openly about our challenges, about our goals, about our aspirations. And we want to give you guys as much information, as much value as possible. So we are launching that next week, and how that will manifest is very simple. So we will go live on a Zoom with all the participants. So it will be a closed group, will be a closed community. Probably in the evening. We're working on that right now, which is an open-ended Zoom call, comprising of two parts. One is an AMA, so an Ask Me Anything, where we have an open discussion, and also have a specific topic, right? Yesterday, if you joined the lunch break, I was asking if any of you who are in sales hates cold calling, hates to make cold call. We got something prepared for that as well, because that's in our opinion is an outdated and rather harmful sales strategy. And we want to talk about, but also show alternatives, and how we can replace strategies that's been around for 40 years, that are just not at the pulse, I would say, of how buyers want to buy nowadays. We're going to have some guests on the show as well. So it's not only me talking, probably get bored of me after some time. Now we're going to have guests. We're going to have an open discussion, an open forum, guests who are anything in relation to sales, in relation to sales strategies, sales tactics, and so on. So we want to bring sales into the next generation, and everything that we do will be centered around the probing sales framework that we have developed, because we believe that the better the conversations are that you have, the better your reputation, the better you can qualify, the faster you can disqualify, and simply just go through your pipeline faster. So everything just revolves around that. But most importantly for me is to just really give value as much as possible in these Zoom calls. And what else do we have? How I see it, there's always two parts to it to sales nowadays. I mean, that's a kind of traditionally is, one is to fill the pipeline, and the second is to close the pipeline. And times have changed drastically, right? And so we need to have new strategies of how we can fill our pipeline, and then also how we can close our pipeline. And closing the pipeline is basically part of what we have developed, the framework that we have developed. And the other thing is how to fill the pipeline, right? And cold calling was one part of it. Traditionally, aggressive prospecting was one part of it, prospecting en masse, and so forth. But we know and we've seen that these outdated traditional sales tactics just don't have the impact anymore that they used to have, due to a variety of reasons. Some of the reasons are that just buyers buy differently, and sales need to evolve and help and facilitate these purchase decisions. So that's what we want to talk about and discuss in our Sales Nation community. But also we want to bring sales pros and sales people together to give them a, I would almost say, a safe haven or safe place, because we all know that sales is a very stressful, high pressure environment, and it can be stressful, and sometimes we maybe just don't know how we can deal with that. So we want to bring that into perspective as well, to have a sales force and salespeople who have a great mental health, who have a great physical health, and know how to close deals, how to fill their pipeline, how to close their pipeline. I think that is the motto of Sales Nation. It's not just sales driven, but it's more a community and a closed group of people to give and receive support. Do you have any questions so far? Let me just see how many of you joined in. We have live viewers here on LinkedIn and YouTube. So that's the one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and that I wanted to share with you. And I'm very excited about it, and I hope you share my enthusiasm. That is a very difficult word to pronounce in English. Enthusiasm. Okay, maybe we can switch it to excitement. That rolls off the tongue easier. Anyway, I'm excited, and I wanted to talk to you about one topic, and that is how to beat behemoth competitors. How can we position ourselves in sales against players that have been on the field longer than we are on the field? And I think that is just regardless of the sector that you are in. And the older I get, the more I realize that there's very rarely do we have something very innovative, something very unique as a product or as a solution coming into the market. And if we're absolutely honest with ourselves, most of the products and services are a commodity, because there's so many competitors doing the same thing as we do, and that can be in tech, that can be in education, that can be across sectors. Corporate finance, I used to be in corporate finance, and so on. So and as technology evolves, technology itself becomes a commodity, right? We can now go on Canva and be a great designer, right? Sorry for pissing the designer community off, but why should we pay $5,000, $10,000 to someone that we can get from Canva for free almost? So, and I'm not bashing any of that. I'm not bashing the designers. I'm trying to show how we can position ourselves, for example, as designers or whatever sector you're in, to go against these commodities, to not be a commodity, to do things differently, to get different results. And I think that is very important here. Let me just get into my do not disturb here. Perfect. Fabulous. So the first thing that I realized when I started out, so many years ago at different startups, number one is the big boys. You really can't beat them at their game. If you're in the cybersecurity market, if you're in SaaS, if you're a startup, I don't know, that runs a CRM, you just can't beat the big guns. They've been established for way too long. And if you want to beat them at their own game, I salute you, but you're going down in flames. We just can't do that. We don't have the budget. We don't have the market penetration. We don't have the brand. We have none of that. So we simply can't invest the same amount of budget into sales and marketing that the big guys do. So we need to be smarter about our go-to-market strategy. We need to be smarter about how we go about sales and marketing. And it's always two sides to it. There's sales and marketing, especially when you're a company that is a startup, maybe 3 years, 5 years on the market and trying to penetrate and get more market share. The first thing that we always do when we go into into a business and work with customers is to align sales and marketing. If sales and marketing are not aligned, you are doomed to fail, because you are putting the gap that is there between sales and marketing is the gap to your revenue, right? Let me say that again. The gap that you have between sales and marketing is the gap of your revenue. So as soon as you align sales and marketing in terms of KPIs, in terms of goals, in terms of communication, how they communicate, how they exchange ideas, how they exchange knowledge and transfer knowledge back and forth, the smaller the gap to your revenue will be. So let's start with sales. Obviously, because we're a sales company, so let's start with sales. Although I started out in marketing, so 5 years ago, I was very big and very excited about marketing. I still am. I think a business that does not embrace marketing or sales or both is not a business. So let's change that, right? So let's get into that. Let's have a look at sales. The question always is, what can we do differently to and now it's getting tricky. What can we do differently to differentiate our solution from the big guys? And we have to be absolutely honest with us. We probably don't have that many differentiators. Probably the big guns, the big boys have more features. They have a better reputation. They have, a better name among their peers. So is there something at all that we as sales can do differently? And let's assume for just a moment that sales will also do some sort of prospecting. It can be social selling or can be traditional prospecting, but let's assume that for a moment. Traditionally, I would say, or actually not traditionally, but I would say that prospecting should go into marketing and not sales. So sales should be focused on closing, not prospecting. But anyway, that's something that we can discuss in our Sales Nation, or maybe in one of the next week's lunch breaks. Anyway, so is there anything that we can do differently in sales? Well, let's have a look at how sales teams are built, how sales teams are coached, how sales teams are trained and educated. So for the last, let's say 30, 40 years, let's say 1980s, let's start there. We had different sales methodologies emerging, and you probably have been trained or have heard of spin, band, snap. There's challenger sales. There's all sorts of things that that salespeople are trained on. Now, I don't have any problem with any of that, apart from the one fact that it's 40 years old. Some of them are 40 years old. And if you think about it, if we train all sales reps in the world on these things, every sales rep sounds exactly the same. They all sound the same because they ask the same questions, they stick to the same sales scripts, and that's it. And there's no differentiator in asking the same questions. Because let's be honest, buyers hate these sales tactics. And buyers hate, well, it's a big word to hate, but they don't like to get annoyed by salespeople because they know exactly what's coming up. It seems like the majority of sales organizations use the same playbook. If I go in my inbox right now on LinkedIn, I have the same message over and over again. I even have them copy and pasted. I made screenshots. Okay, I can prove it. So there are different sales, and I'm not blaming the sales reps, right? I'm blaming management. I'm blaming management and C-level to continue this madness of just continue to be a commodity. And there's so much enthusiasm and so much potential in each and every sales rep. It doesn't matter if they're a sales veteran or just new into sales. We all have that enthusiasm. We all want to do sales because it's great. To close someone is great, right? If we don't sell, if we have to convince someone to buy from us, doesn't feel good. But so what's the differentiator? Well, if every sales call sounds the same, if every sales email, if every cold email, if every cold call is exactly the same from start to finish, the prospects know that. The buyers know that, right? I'm getting a call right now. I don't know the number. I bet you it's someone who wants to pitch. I don't blame the person calling me. Again, it's the system that needs to change. It's the awareness that needs to change, that there are alternatives, that we can do things differently. And that was one of the reasons why we developed the probing sales framework, because we had the light bulb moment and say, wait a minute, the way our sales team leads conversations, that's so different from what everybody else is doing. It's not us saying that. It's really people saying that. It's people saying that to us and say, that's a really good question. Never thought about that. And we also see it in results. If buyers trust you and if buyers really, if you have a good rapport with buyers and a good relationship, quote unquote relationship, then you are able to control and lead the conversation completely differently than if the prospect feels like it's an interrogation or it's an investigation. Don't be Inspector Columbo. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Inspector Columbo. That was even before my time. But anyway, and so I told the story before that we made 8,404 cold calls last year in a span of roughly 6 months, something like that. And it was head of technology, CTOs, IT directors, and so on. And they told us blatantly, they get 10, 15 calls every day. And if they were to pick up each and every one, they wouldn't get anything done in their daily work. So that can't be it. And still, there are sales training programs out there that promote cold calling, that promote cold emails, that promote getting around gatekeepers. If a CEO expects your call, why would you deal with gatekeepers? You don't have to get around with them. You have an appointment. Even if you land with a gatekeeper, you have an appointment. You're talking to the CEO, or the CEO has your phone number in their phone, which is absolutely ideal. But do you understand where I'm coming from? It's not only the product that differentiates our brand from our competition, it's how every touch point makes potential buyers feel about our brand. And sales plays a huge role in that. So does marketing, especially when you combine these two, especially when you have an alignment between sales and marketing. They really work together. And even when you have sales that still does the outbound, that still does prospecting to a certain degree, even cold calling to a certain degree, you can even change the way you cold call. I don't recommend it because I think that cold calling is the biggest waste of resources that you can do. That there's so much alternatives that are so much better to cold calling that it's still unbelievable to me that there are still organizations out there who are relying on cold calling. But anyway, to each their own. We're building this sales company without cold calling because we don't believe in it, because we are buyers ourselves. I don't like to receive cold calls. And funnily enough, most sales managers who tell their team to cold call don't like getting cold calls. How weird is that? Anyway, so there are ways how we can differentiate from the big guns, from the behemoth competitors. So let's have a closer look. So I truly believe that our competitive edge is where we help buyers buy from us on their terms. And that's very important because when we're in enterprise sales, when we're in B2B sales, there's always a very complex apparatus in the background. There are more than one decision makers. On average, we have 8 decision makers sitting there waiting for us, for our solution, just to give us objections after objections after objections. But if we help them and facilitate their purchase decision in their process, so we can help them make a purchase decision faster in our favor, but it's still on the buyer's terms, there's your competitive edge right there. And I see a lot of sales still being done differently than that, still being focused on the vendor, still being focused on the seller, sales cycle. We have to check our boxes. So what if you did something differently? What if you started ticking your buyers' boxes, or help them tick their boxes faster and quicker than they would without you? Wouldn't that be a competitive edge? They would rather pick up the phone and have a chat with you and negotiate with you than your competitor. Of course. Oh, absolutely. So in order to facilitate purchase decisions and your buyer's process, a couple of things. Number one for me is ask different questions, right? We said it before, we said it earlier. Everybody is trained on the same things. Everybody is using the same script, is using the same questions. And if you don't believe me, right, just talk to the buyers, talk to prospects and ask them. Because that's what we did. And it's the same over and over again. They can smell that it's a cold call. They can smell that it's a sales call. They can smell that you want to pitch, that you pitch in your cold email or in your DM. And we don't want that, right? We want them intrigued. We want them to open that email. We want them to have that conversation with you, right? And the best conversations you will ever have is when they come to you. When they come to you. So number one is ask different questions. Number two is ask better questions. It's the same principle. If every sales organization is using the same playbook, not much of a differentiator. But if you ask different questions and formulate it in a different way, and you ask better questions that facilitate purchase decisions faster, ooh, here we are. That opens up doors. That opens up doors. Number three, ask questions that facilitate purchase decisions, not only to tick your sales boxes. I said it just 2 minutes ago. Start helping your buyers tick their boxes. And by doing that, you automatically tick your own sales boxes. It's just a shift in mindset. As soon as the buyer ticks their box, there is an equivalent on your side, on the vendor side, on the sales side that you can tick as well. Right? Is it number 4? I think it's number 4. Ask questions that prevent objections. Hold on a minute. I was trained to handle objections. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody does that. That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. Most are trained to handle objections, not prevent objections. Now, is that possible? Yeah. All of them? Maybe not, because we have to deal with more than one decision maker, so that we will run into objections. But the main objections, 9 out of 10, we can prevent by simply asking questions that provoke critical thinking, hence the probing sales framework. So we intrigue them to think, to come up with a solution that they tell us that they need from us. Does that make sense? Are you following me? To break it down, words sell, and words put into a question, asked at the right time, in the right way, that is what facilitates the purchase decision in your favor. And last but not least, lead conversations to a close that has been agreed on by your prospect before you even began your discovery call. What do I mean by that? The close usually is at the end, right? So that's the last step. What we do is we take that last bit and put it at the very beginning of the discovery call, at the very beginning of our demo, at the very beginning of our sales call. So we basically close, we agree on a close, and that makes it so easier to then pop the question. A lot of, I was just about to say, a lot of young salespeople are just afraid to ask and to really go in for the close, because they don't know how the prospect will react. I had that problem myself. I by nature, I was more an introvert than an extrovert. And I can tell you, it gets better with maturity and with age. But when I started out in sales, it was really hard for me to pop the question at the right time, and the right question, the right close. But if you put that in front of your discovery call, you take the pressure off of yourself. You set the expectations. Your prospect knows, okay, by the end of the call, by the end of that discovery call or that demo, this and that will happen. And I already agreed to it, right? So just make it easier for yourself. And that's all part of the probing sales framework, is to make it easier for you in sales to have these conversations and to lead and guide your prospect through that sales conversation, that sales call, to the close. That's one aspect of the probing sales framework, of course. There are loads of different moving pieces, but that's part of it, definitely. And so one thing that you can do differently, going back to the original topic, how you can beat your competitors, actually any competitor, is by having different conversations, asking different questions, asking better questions, filling your pipeline differently. That first touch point that your potential buyer or prospect has with your brand, with you, is absolutely crucial. You can't beat a first impression. That's what they say. I completely agree with that. It's very hard to kind of improve a first impression. So we just want to get it right from the start. Yeah. And to me, LinkedIn is the perfect platform to do that. Why? Because LinkedIn is a professional network. As a professional network, it's not a social network. Well, partly it is, but it's a professional network above anything else. And I'm on LinkedIn to do business, to grow my business, not to like something or I don't know. It's not like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok where you mostly being entertained. I'm on LinkedIn to do business, and I encourage everyone to send me an invite, send me a message. If you're doing business there as well, perfect. Let's connect. And most people who are on LinkedIn are on LinkedIn to improve their business, to sell something or to improve something, to increase revenue, increase reach, increase awareness, to network with like-minded people, with CEOs, CFOs, head of sales, and what have you not. And I think it is less intrusive to ask a sales-related question on LinkedIn than it is somewhere else, because everybody's there on LinkedIn to do business anyway. So it's for salespeople is absolutely ideal because the mindset is there, right? The attitude is, I'm on LinkedIn. If I get a message and someone wants to sell something, or at least initiates the conversation in such a way that might lead to doing business, I'm fine with that because that's why I'm there for. I might not be in the market for that particular product, maybe not now, but maybe next year. But at least, we have a connection there. So I'm relentless on LinkedIn, and so should you. But please don't pitch. Don't take the traditional sales strategies and just push it onto LinkedIn. We got to be smarter about that. We got to be smarter than that. Stuff like cold calling or cold emailing. Don't just send out DMs en masse with the same pitch and the same framework and the same playbook that everybody else has. And I see that happening. I just feel there's a mixture of feelings. I feel annoyed. I feel frustrated that salespeople are still not being trained correctly, and it's never the sales rep's fault. If you're an SDR, if you're a BDR, even up to an account executive, it's the system that we want to change. It's the system to give you the opportunity to close better, to get more leads in that have a high buy intent or a higher buy intent, to not having to do cold calls, to not having to send out 5,000 emails, and you get a 0.1% open rate or whatever the number is. So we want to change the system. We want to change how management pulls up their strategies. And that's what we're here for. That's why we are doing the Sales Nation, because I want to have a safe place for all the sales development reps, the SDRs, the BDRs, even the sales managers who want to know how we can make the shift and make the transformation from traditional sales to a newer and better model, which we have developed and we know how to do. And we talk a lot. I talk a lot to sales managers who understand that we have to do things differently, and we agree. And sometimes it's just the lack of knowing how, instead of the fear of doing it. So as soon as you know how, as soon as you know that there are alternatives, that there are better alternatives than what you're doing right now, how you can increase the productivity and the results and the outcome of your sales force, or even in your day-to-day sales business, as soon as you know that, the sky's the limit. And that's what we do. That's what we're here for. And that's my mission, to give you guys all the tools that you need, all the knowledge and the skills that you need to really make that shift, and to stop with that ridiculous cold calling and cold email, by the way, that equally ridiculous. So the first touch point is really important on LinkedIn, and I'll wrap that up in 2 minutes now, because I don't want to waste any more of your time. The first touch point is important. The first touch point leads to filling the pipeline. And from filling the pipeline, we can then close the pipeline better with the probing sales framework than with any other playbook that has been around for 40 years. Because everybody sounds the same. Every sales call sounds the same, because everybody has been trained on the same sales script, on the same sales playbook. So we do things differently. And we want to talk to people, especially in sales, who want to do things differently. So that's it. 40 minutes in, that's enough for a lunch break. It's Friday. Any questions that you might have, pop it in the comments. Otherwise, I'm going to wish you a great, stunning, exciting, adventurous weekend. Hopefully with a lot of recharging the batteries, so that we'll see each other on Monday at 12:45 for the next Sales Nation lunch break. And next week, we're going to launch the Sales Nation community, which I'm really excited about. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect with us on YouTube and Twitter. Send me an invite. Happy to connect. And I'll keep you updated with the Sales Nation community, how you can be part of that, how you can get in. All of that will happen next week. Happy weekend, everyone. See you on Monday, 12:45. Thank you.
See you later.